The town of Sierra Vista woke before the sun. Dust clung to the air like static. A coyote watched from the edge of a dried creek bed, ears twitching at a sound it had come to ignore. The sound came every morning, a deep, rhythmic vibration that pulsed through the desert floor and rattled the bolts. Loose in a nearby stop sign, locals said it came from Kate Moreno's garage. Kate lived in a single-story metal building off County Road 281. It had one faded auto repair sign, no business hours, and a rusted Coke machine out front that hadn't worked in years. Her truck was always parked straight, tire treads aligned, gas tank topped. She wore the same thing every day, gray mechanics coveralls, sleeves rolled up. Black boots shined just enough to suggest old habits die hard. The shop's interior was clean, too clean for a place that handled carburetors and axles. Tools hung in exact sequence, wrenches arranged by torque rating. Nothing out of place. She didn't talk much. Customers dropped their keys and left. The work was good, finished on time, priced fair. They didn't ask where she came from or why her hands moved like they remembered things no manual could teach. Behind the garage was a locked hangar, partially obscured by mesquite and corrugated fencing. Locals joked it was where she kept her ex-husbands. Nobody laughed when they said it. At 0430, the hangar lights clicked on. The vibration started shortly after. Those close enough to hear thought it was an industrial generator. Those farther out thought thunder had learned rhythm. Inside the hangar, a UH-60 Blackhawk sat under a tarp. Its tail number was missing. Its skin had been repainted with heat-resistant matte coating. Rotor blades were balanced to surgical precision. Kate ran checks with the steadiness of routine. Hydraulic pressure, fuel line integrity, electrical isolation, no wasted movement, no conversation. The cockpit smelled of machine oil and time. A cracked photo was clipped behind the altimeter. 6 people in flight suits. Faces dusted in sand. One of them was her. Younger. Harder. She adjusted the seat back one click, wiped condensation off the cyclic. Eyes scanned the checklist, but she didn't read it. Muscle memory handled that. At 05:15, the sound stopped. The lights went dark. Kate locked the hangar with a biometric latch, added a manual deadbolt, then walked back to the shop. Sunlight broke over the hills like it had somewhere to be. Kate poured coffee into a thermos she didn't wash, took one sip, set it down, opened the bay doors. First job was a Ford F-150 with a cracked head gasket. She didn't need to look it over. The sound of the idle had told her what was wrong before the customer finished. The sentence. By 07:00, the air was already thick. A border patrol unit drove past, nodded once. She nodded back. They didn't stop. At 07:45, Sheriff Hale parked across the street. He watched the garage for 3 minutes, then drove off. He did that every Tuesday. She noticed everything. On the workbench sat a box of parts, civilian orders, marked to a junkyard in Phoenix, but the routing labels didn't match. Inside were avionics components, new, sealed, military spec. She logged them in by hand, no software, no network. Filed them alphabetically in a drawer marked transmissions. By noon, 3 oil changes, 2 belt replacements, and 1 carb rebuild were complete. She washed her hands with degreaser, checked the perimeter cameras, then went back to adjusting torque specs on a torque wrench. The settings hadn't shifted in 6 months. A customer named Dobson tried small talk while waiting. She listened but said little. He mentioned the sound from behind the shop. Said it reminded him of his Army days, when Blackhawks dropped into hot zones. She didn't flinch, just handed him the receipt and nodded once. At 14 under clouds built in the south, she stepped outside, looked at the sky, judged the wind, and covered the intake vent on the rooftop unit. The tarp stayed tied. She closed at 17:0, locked the door in 3 steps, inner bolt, outer padlock, crossbar wedge. Dinner was beans and canned chicken, eaten in silence. Her movements precise. Spoon taps once, then twice, then nothing. She checked the perimeter again. Not just cameras, tracks in the dirt, broken twigs by the east fence, a shift in the alignment of gravel by the gate. She didn't react. In the back room, she lifted a floor tile. Underneath, a sealed compartment. Inside sidearm, extra mags, sat phone, encrypted flash drives. One item wrapped in cloth, a name patch that read Hunter. She looked at it for exactly 3 seconds, then closed the panel and replaced the tile. At 19:30, she stood at the hangar door and stared at the sky. The clouds had moved west. Visibility was clear. Wind at 6 knots. She took note but didn't write it down. Inside the cockpit, the seat was still warm. The checklist was still folded open to line 14, verify flight mode standby. She closed the page, slid the photo back into its slot, and sealed the canopy. By 20 Horan, the town was dark. A coyote trotted across the dirt road, paused at the hangar gate, sniffed, then ran. Kate turned off the last light. The night swallowed her whole. The sun had barely cleared the horizon when the door chime rang. Kate looked up from the intake manifold she was aligning. The man who stepped in didn't match the usual crowd. Clean boots, wrinkle-free civvies, watch set to Zulu time. He moved like someone used to formations, no glance wasted. Right hand never strayed far from his belt. "Morning," he said. "Name's Mark Ridley. Just transferred to Davis-Monthan. Thought I'd drop by. Heard you're the best around for diesel systems." She nodded once, no handshake, pointed to the clipboard on the counter. He picked it up but didn't fill anything out. Eyes scanned the walls. Paused on the torque chart. Moved to the back, stopping just shy of the door to the hangar. "That yours?" he asked, motioning toward the metal wall. "Sounds like something big runs back there." Kate wiped her hands with a cloth. No reply. He didn't press, just smiled like he already knew the answer. Said something about old equipment, hard to find parts, maybe needing help later. Left without scheduling anything. Kate didn't watch him go, but her eyes stayed fixed on the empty clipboard for a full minute. That night, long after the town went dark, she unlocked the hangar. Steel hinges didn't creak, the keypad didn't beep. Every component maintained, every seal checked monthly. Inside, the air was 10 degrees cooler. The floor spotless except for a line of shoe prints tracked in from the week. Before, she walked past the workbench, lifted the canvas tarp from the helicopter's nose. The UH-60 stood like a monument. Matte gray skin broken only by a small stencil under the cockpit frame. Valkyrie. She moved to the aft compartment first, checked the auxiliary power unit. Fuel cells primed, battery at full charge. Flipped open a panel near the left nacelle, fused wiring, re-insulated. Her own work. Switched the master power breaker. Internal lights hummed to life. Soft. Even. No flicker. Inside the cockpit, she dropped into the left seat. No hesitation. Adjusted the seat track, boots locked on the pedals. Hands hovered just above the cyclic and collective. Didn't touch yet. She reached under the panel, twisted a key lock interlock. 2 switches up. 1 toggle right. Avionics booted clean. Primary MFDs lit green. No faults. She tested the fire detection loop, ran a full bit on the FADEC system. Not a single hesitation in her motions. Radio came online. Local ATC frequency buzzed once, but she didn't transmit. Didn't need to. She called out each line on the checklist, calm, audible, only to the aircraft. Electrical system standby. Flight controls free and correct. Fuel quantity verified. Hydraulic pressure 3000 psi. Engine start system idle. Hold. No emotion in her voice. No inflection. Just the steps. Precise. Muscle memory carved in steel. She paused at the FLIR interface. Ran diagnostics. Sensor alignment. 98. 7%? Acceptable. ECM module powered. Chaff dispenser acknowledged. Infrared countermeasure synced. All systems read nominal. She shut down the flight interface, powered down the screens, and reset the system clock to 0, backdated at 4 years, just in case. Back in the bay, she removed the flare packs, checked expiration dates, repacked the flare casings with fresh rounds, reinstalled without torque error, every nut double-checked. Moved to the blade hub, tapped each attachment point with the rubber end of a wrench, listened. The sound told her more than any sensor could. She stepped back, crossed to the side locker, pulled out a tactical harness. Checked buckles, holster interface still clicked clean, no fray in the webbing. Removed a sidearm. Glock 19 Gen 5, clean, chamber clear. Full magazine in the well. She popped it, inspected each round by touch, then reinserted. 2 extra mags followed, loaded, labeled, taped. She opened the comms locker. 2 radios. 1 unmodified civilian band, 1 military crypto unit, checked battery levels. Encryption keys still valid. Slid the lid shut. Walked around the tail boom, checked anti-collision lights. Disconnected one circuit for safety. Made a mental note. No checklist needed. The night was still. She stood in the center of the hangar, facing the aircraft. 1 foot behind the other, shoulders square, weight balanced. She didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. Then she spoke. Just one word. Soon. She replaced the tarp, smoothing it across the rotors. Not rushed, not slow. Just right. She returned each tool to its place, wiped her gloves twice before hanging them. Locked the hangar door, keyed in the code, added a second manual lock. Back inside her living quarters, she checked the security monitors. The last frame showed Ridley driving past again. Slower this time. She didn't blink. Set the coffee for 4:30, laid out her coveralls, rechecked the Glock. Turned off the lights. Sleep came like a switch, no dreams, no sound. The Black Hawk waited in silence. Everything was ready. The knock came at 0:37, not the door chime, not casual, 3 sharp hits. Open hand, flat, controlled. Kate was awake. She always was at this hour. Coffee still warm on the workbench. Wrench set laid out for a job she didn't need to finish. She opened the door slowly, no surprise in her eyes. 3 vehicles lined the gravel, black Suburbans, windows dark, tires still ticking from heat. 8 men stood outside, no local patches, 2 in plain tactical gear. 1 in a Navy liaison windbreaker, 1 held a clipboard. "Ma'am," said the lead. He wore civilian slacks and a coat that didn't match. "We're with a joint task force, DA, FBI, DOD liaison. Got a warrant here." She looked at the paper, didn't touch it. "We're responding to reports of unauthorized equipment," he said. "Possibly stolen military assets. Routine check." She didn't move. "Your name is Kate Moreno," the second agent asked. She nodded once. "Mind if we take a quick look around?" She stepped aside, didn't speak. They fanned out. 2 stayed by the front. 2 moved toward the garage bay. 1 tried the hangar gate, found it locked. "We need access to that structure," 1 called back. Kate walked to the keypad, entered the wrong code 3 times. Red light blinked. "Power's been intermittent," she said. "Lock's jammed." The man grunted, logged it in his notes. 1 agent ran a wand scanner along the outer wall. Readouts stayed clean. He moved on. Another stood inside the shop, scanning the walls, noticed the torque chart. Noticed the combat knife magnetized under the shelf. He didn't say anything. Back by the office, the man in the windbreaker picked up a grease rag. Turned it once, set it back down. "Place is clean," he said. Kate didn't respond. "We appreciate your cooperation," the lead agent said. "Offering a business card without agency name. Just initials. Local field number?" She didn't take it. They left without another word. Gravel crunched under boots. Engines started. Vehicles rolled out slow. She waited 2 full minutes after the lights disappeared. Then she locked the front door and turned off the overheads. In the back of the workshop, behind the drill press, she pulled out a bottom drawer. Inside was a tray of bolts, labeled, measured. Fake. She slid the tray aside. Underneath, a steel plate, thumbprint activated. Click. Silent piston. Panel opened. She reached in and pulled out a black case. Inside encrypted radio, ID beacon transceiver, sat-link tether, all powered, all idle. She checked the channel. It was already active. Top LED blinked red. Message flag. Ghost 6. Encrypt level 5. Extract. Priority. 1. No sound, just the light. She set the radio down and opened the second case. Inside personnel records. Printed in faded ink. Ghost Squadron. Mission logs. Coordinates. Signatures. Redacted lines. All except 1. A photo lay folded under the files. 6 figures. Desert gear. Faces blurred by sun and sand. In the center, her younger, but already tired. Standing just behind her, Monroe. Ghost 6. She stared at the image for 4 seconds, then folded it, slipped it inside a side pouch, locked the case, opened a smaller drawer to the right, pulled out a burner phone. No SIM. 1 number saved, labeled 0. She placed it on the bench, walked to the corner locker, opened the safe, Removed a Pelican case. Unlatched it. Checked inventory. M4 carbine. Collapsible stock. Upper receiver modified. Chambered in 556. EOTech mounted. Cleaned. Sighted. Loaded mag in separate pouch. 30 rounds. Set it aside. Pulled out a secondary loadout. SIG P320. Night sights. 2 mags. Tactical light. All field tested. All hers. No hesitation. She suited up. No armor. Soft harness. Underlayer synthetic. Everything tight. No noise. She grabbed a hard drive from the far wall. Plugged it into the encrypted port under the workbench. The shop lights dimmed as power rerouted. Display showed mission logs, covert routing data, previous flight maps. Altitudes, loadouts, archive only. No one had accessed it since 2016. She scanned the flight list. Last entry tagged in red test FLT. System check. No packs. Canyon terrain. Low level. Below radar. Perfect. She unplugged the drive. Slid it into her boot holster. Flipped the wall switch. Lights out. She walked to the hangar. Entered the correct code. Lock opened clean. Inside, the Black Hawk waited. No words, no thoughts. She walked the length of the aircraft. Checked tail boom. Panel seams. No dust. Opened the engine bay. Manually rotated the turbine. Smooth. Climbed into the cockpit. Battery on. Lights glowed. No faults. Avionics on. Standby mode. Rotor not engaged. Screens flickered once. Booted green. She reached under the seat. Pulled out a headset. Placed it over her ears. Plugged in. Tested internal mic. No broadcast. Checklist began. Voice flat. Quiet. For the machine. Master power on. Flight controls tested. All axes responsive. Fuel pump check. Lines pressurized. Environmental on. Cabin seal verified. Hydraulics check. Pressure stable. Lights off. Systems green. Comms silent. She closed the panel. Powered down. Slid the seat back. Stared out the windshield. Darkness ahead. Nothing but outlines. Hands rested on her thighs. Still. Relaxed. Ready. She whispered a name. No louder than breath. Monroe. Then she left. Locked the hangar. Reset the outer latch. Camouflaged the keypad. Back in the shop, she reset the workbench, cleaned each fingerprint, replaced the bolt tray, closed the steel panel. She took the photo, slid it into the back of her wallet. It didn't show when she closed it. She sat at the edge of the cot, checked her boots, retied them, twice. The wind outside picked up. No rain, no thunder, just movement. She stood, picked up the sat link. Signal still blinked. She pressed one button. The response came in 2 seconds. Location received. She said nothing. Then she turned off the lights and waited. The radio lit green at 02:13. No ringtone, no prompt, just voice encrypted and calm. Kate sat at the bench, headset in place. Nothing on her face changed. It's Monroe, the voice said. Situation red. 6-man seal element. Canyon grid 604 by 882. 2-hour window. Wind shear's bad. Terrain worse. No rotor insertion without loss. 3 LZs compromised. 1 KIA. 1 WIA. She didn't reply. Requesting extraction from Asset Ghost 2. Immediate priority. No support. No air cover. Coordinates sent. No repeat. She closed the line. Crossed the room. Keyed the hangar door. Inside, the Black Hawk waited. She flipped the breaker. Lights filled the bay. Opened the starboard storage pod. Pulled out flare canisters. Counted. 8 functional, 2 borderline. Discarded the bad. Replaced from reserve locker. Loaded each round. Checked alignment. Closed hatches. Walked to the left side panel. Opened the ECM box. Powered auxiliary module. Status green. No faults. Ran diagnostics on the countermeasures suite. Adjusted frequency spread. Saved settings. Walked around to the rear. Opened intake cowling. Checked for bird nests. Wiped dust from the air screen. No corrosion. Tightened the clamps. Rechecked torque. Reapplied the safety tag. Forward again. Dropped the IR countermeasures sensor from its mount. Cleaned the lens. Checked cooling line. Reinserted. Twist. Lock. Seal. Climbed the ladder to the rotor hub. Gloved hands moved without sound. Checked blade pitch links. Inspected elastomeric bearings. Noted no oil bleed. Pulled gently on each arm. No movement. Verified balance ring. Satisfactory. Back down. Walked portside. Removed the pilot door panel. Verified emergency release mechanism. Reattached. Opened avionics bay. Rechecked GPS sync. Cleared nav cache. Manually entered terrain elevation data for grid 604. Rebooted. Checked loadout 1 carbine. Sidearm. TAC vest. Water. Medkit. 1 comms repeater. No flight plan filed. She sealed the panel. Walked to the locker in the corner. Took out her suit. Nomex. Faded navy. Patches removed. Velcro lines still visible. She folded it once. Laid it across the bench. Inspected each seam. No tear. No fray. Sat. Removed her boots. Replaced with flight-grade composite soles. Tucked pants into liners, laced tight. Pulled on the undershirt, then the suit. One leg, then the other. Zipped to the sternum, belted the collar. No words. She pulled on the gloves. Pressed the knuckles together. Flexed each finger. Checked the grip on her primary hand. Stood, shoulders back, posture squared. She picked up her helmet, matte black, no insignia, liner still fit. Battery still held charge. Attached comms lead. Switched the helmet system to passive receive. Set the helmet on the co-pilot seat. Boots clicked once against the floor. She stopped in front of the nose. The rotor tips reflected just enough light to show her outline. She adjusted her harness straps, one at a time. No haste. Final check. Night vision mount ready. Seat survival kit attached. Ingress route memorized. She keyed the fuel panel, checked levels, satisfied. Pulled the hangar power disconnect, the lights dimmed. Backup battery took over. Red light only. She stood in front of the aircraft, looked at the ceiling. Listened for air movement. Nothing. Clock said 02:55. She walked to the terminal, opened the flight recorder shell. Slipped out the data card, inserted blank. Flight log zeroed. She sealed the drive bay. Walked once more around the Black Hawk. Each step deliberate. Each surface remembered. No checklist needed. At the back wall, she opened a crate. Removed a small object. Rubber wrapped. Fist-sized. It was a coin, stainless steel, the old unit crest. She looked at it, then placed it in the map pouch behind the pilot seat. One last stop. The far locker, locked, coded. She entered the 6-digit string. The door clicked. Inside a satellite relay beacon, field class. Illegal to operate on civilian channels. She strapped it to her belt. Battery charged, ID code embedded, silent. At 03:03 she moved to the pilot seat. Strapped in. Adjusted the seat position, checked cyclic freedom, pedals adjusted. Right hand on the collective. Left hand on the start switch cover. She paused, just for a second. Then flipped the switch. Battery came alive. Systems booted. HUD lit. Diagnostics streamed in green. She spoke only once. For him. Hold on, I'm coming. The safe house sat off a dirt road 4 miles from truth or consequences. Concrete walls, no windows, one steel door, no markings, cooled by fans. Power from a gas-fed generator that never hummed above a whisper. Jackson Monroe stood by a fold-out table. Shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. Dried blood on his left arm. Didn't mention it. Kate didn't ask. The table was bare except for a map, an old Dell laptop, and 3 folders marked redacted in black grease pencil. He didn't speak at first. Let her sweep the room. She checked the generator line, the ingress camera feed, the vent seals. Satisfied, she stepped to the table. He opened the top folder. 7 photos, military ID format, names blanked, black bars across eyes. But she recognized everyone. He pointed to each. Austin, killed outside Kandahar, lander car accident, no tox report. Serrano, house fire, Jameson, mid-air training fail. Hobbs, gunshot to the chest, ruled suicide. Davis, unknown location, presumed dead. Tran, blown tire, bridge collapse. He tapped the last slot. You and me, he said. She didn't flinch. He opened the laptop, entered a code. Screen lit dim green. No audio, just visuals, a satellite track. Zoomed in on a facility in Northern Virginia. Overlay Pentagon sub-office, logistics command. Jackson clicked. A face appeared. Marcus Webb, age 51, civilian status, former JSOC, clearance still active. Current role Foreign Asset Coordination Lead. Kate folded her arms. Eyes didn't move. He slid another folder over. Inside expense reports, charter plane manifests, cash transfers in Hong Kong, photos of Webb in Shanghai, Istanbul, Tunis. Each one stamped by third-party SIGINT intercept, not admissible, not deniable. Jackson reached into his vest, pulled a drive. This has ghost logs from Webb's archive, every op we flew, every contact. He's selling mission structures, exfil patterns, SIGINT encryption ladders. To anyone with money. She picked up the drive, didn't plug it in. He stepped back, let her take space. She looked at the map. Southern Corridor, 2 flagged sites, New Mexico and Arizona. 1 red circle in D.C. She tapped each pin, wrote nothing, but memorized placement. He pointed to a 4th, circled in black. This is the handoff point, where he sends data outside CONUS. Unsanctioned uplink, not on any official net. She looked again at Webb's face, didn't blink. He pulled out a second map, aerial recon. He'll be there in 3 days. 2-hour window, no team, minimal security. Doesn't want chatter. She traced a line from her shop to the site, calculated fuel, elevation, time, then looked up once. What's the plan? He paused, didn't smile, didn't lean in. We end it. She nodded. He slid her a burner phone. 2 numbers programmed, me and Valkyrie Net. She pocketed it, checked her gear, pulled a Sharpie from her bag, drew an arc from Arizona to the black site. Then she circled a canyon, marked Alt Flight Path. He raised an eyebrow. That's tight terrain. She rolled the pen back to him. I've flown tighter. He didn't argue. She lifted the photo set, folded it, tucked it behind her holster, then opened her pack, checked her sidearm, safety engaged, mag full, chamber empty. He grabbed a water bottle, took a sip, tossed her one. She caught it one-handed, didn't drink. She unfolded a second map, used her fingernail to trace a ring around a no-fly zone. Quiet airspace. Less radar. He nodded once. You'll have 30 seconds on site. I only need 20, she said. He didn't answer. She zipped the map into her side pouch, stood. Outside, the sun was beginning to bleed over the ridgeline. She stepped to the door, looked at her boots, dusted the edge of her right sole. Habit. He looked down at the laptop again. You sure you're ready for this? She reached for her gloves. I was ready before it started. She walked out, didn't look back. Jackson stood in silence, then deleted every file on the laptop, crushed the drive with a hammer, and began packing. Kate crouched beside the Blackhawk's forward panel. She opened the intake bay and slid in a heat emitter block, positioning it between the baffle vents. Wired it to a thermal loop, pre-coded to pulse every 3.6 seconds. She attached a diagnostic tablet, ran a loop simulating turbine heat levels. The display showed stable thresholds, realistic to infrared surveillance. At the rear bay, she set a compressed air injector inside the tail rotor hub. Timed puffs mimicked wind resistance and RPM buildup. She added a randomized vibration pulse to a hull-mounted subwoofer. Low frequency, indistinct, but traceable by drones. Inside the cockpit, she activated the onboard auxiliary power unit. Wired to run silent but hot, thermal bleed pushed through panel seams, enough to show engine activity from 2 miles out. She moved to the avionics stack, inserted a dummy nav loop, programmed GPS drift, a pre-plotted flight path westbound. No real altitude data, all noise. Radio transmitter next, tuned to military airband. Sent bursts on encrypted intervals, all autoplay. No real pilot. She checked the ELT beacon, left it off, no mayday. At the floorboard, she rigged 3 LED panel lights to a motion sensor. Positioned at hatch level, triggered by camera flash or movement within 6 feet. She tested it once. Lights flared white, held for 10 seconds, dropped. She climbed back down, reset the hangar breaker, engaged the bypass switch. External sensors armed, internal systems live. On the wall, she flipped a red switch, an old relay, label faded. It clicked. Fans started. The sound of fuel pumps echoed through the space. She placed her gloves on the pilot seat, neatly folded. At the rear wall, she lifted a false floor panel, beneath a tunnel. Reinforced PVC pipe, 12 feet down, dirt-lined, smelled of brake fluid and earth. She slid inside, sealed the hatch, used her elbows to guide. 40 meters forward, a second hatch, lifted with a turn lock. She emerged behind the shop. Brush covered the exit grate. She didn't look back. Jackson waited in a tan pickup. Civilian tags. Nothing military. A jerrycan sat in the back. No weapon visible. She stepped in, closed the door. He drove. No talk. 40 minutes later, they arrived at a ridgeline over a modular complex. Flat roofs, 2 satellite uplinks, 1 generator hum. They stepped out, light wind, 68 degrees. Kate opened the pack, pulled out a fake cable relay, plugged it into a line box on the utility pole. Jackson knelt by a breaker panel, inserted a tap the size of a lighter, snapped it closed. She moved to the west building, found a vent port, slid in a fiber cam, connected to a reader. Inside 3 men, 1 with a laptop, 1 scanning SAT data, 1 on the phone. Jackson marked their faces on a memo pad, tucked it away. Kate adjusted the scope angle, found Webb, wearing civvies, talking to someone off screen, smiling. She tapped Jackson's wrist, pointed to the clock tower across the compound. He nodded, logged time. She slid the cam out, wiped the lens, repacked. They moved to the north fence, no sensors, chain link only. She clipped the wire at a joint, pushed through, reclipped behind them. Jackson pointed left. She led, stepped in pace with shadows. They reached the comms trunk, wired the tap. Time to record, then self-erase in 90 minutes. Kate checked the scope again. Webb leaned over a map, tapped coordinates. She noted the spot. Lower New Mexico, not on any public grid. They backed out. Same route, no footprints, no noise. At the ridge, they paused. Kate adjusted her collar. Jackson looked once toward the structure. Then they walked. No signal emitted, no one chased. Back in the truck, she opened the field laptop. Watched the first live tap roll in. Inside the hangar, the Black Hawk glowed. Right on schedule. The Black Hawk rose at 0514, skids clear. Rotor wash kicked up sand and mesquite scrub. Altimeter steady. Heading southwest. Kate held steady at 300 feet AGL, low enough to mask under radar sweeps. Fast enough to outrun response. Inside the cockpit, the SATCOM relay blinked amber, locked onto federal bands. Her thumb pressed transmit. This is Captain Rachel Hunter, former Ghost Squadron. Identification code Alpha 27 Black, confirming location 32.02111, 108, 4503, broadcasting now. She flipped the cover on the secure drive slot, slid the capsule in, triggered data dump, live stream uploaded, spread across public access, encrypted federal and third-party civilian nodes. Redacted files, clean slate mission orders, Webb's financial logs, kill lists, intel sale trails. She spoke again. This transmission is real-time. Ghost Squadron was terminated by internal order. 7 killed, 2 remain. Webb's name highlighted in the feed, 5 aliases. 1 ongoing op suppression of intelligence personnel. No commentary, no emotion. She closed the transmission with 6 words. This is the last confirmation drop. Then she banked east. Her HUD pulsed red. Bogies inbound. Northeast. 3 rotor contacts. Fast movers. Military ID not declared. Mode C silent. She dropped altitude. Terrain rise ahead. Shifted pitch. Set airspeed to 142 knots. Her ECM flashed a ping. They were painting her. No missiles yet. Inside the HUD, an encrypted frequency opened. Rachel, you need to land now. This is a federal command override. Cease flight or you will be engaged. She toggled mute, looked ahead. The pass narrowed to 300 meters. Rock face on both sides. No vertical climb, just curve and grit. The voice returned. Rachel, stand down. We are cleared to engage. She waited. Let the terrain tighten. Watched wind speed drop. Her advantage. She toggled the line. You're outgunned. Then she cut the channel. Throttle pushed, nose dipped. She hugged the rise, blades just under stall margin. Wingtips of the first hostile passed overhead. No visual. They lost lock. Her flare pod kicked a dummy burst. IR trackers jumped off course. Second bogey tried a hard dive, missed, pulled up blind. She banked right, entered a shadowed cut, 2 blades wide. She'd flown it once. Training pass, no room for error. HUD map flickered. She flew it blind. RPM held, fuel even, no chatter. Behind her, the radar sweep vanished. One chopper clipped a ridge, down hard. Others scattered. Webb's voice cracked the frequency. "You don't know what you're doing. You'll kill us both." She didn't answer. She reached the valley mouth, climbed sharp, leveled out, checked rear camera. 1 contact left, still tracking. She opened the side bay, armed the ECM charge. 1 shot, broadcast jammed. The tracker lost visual, loop triggered. They chased the ghost signal west. She banked, set a new heading. No celebration, no panic. Just flight, clean, precise, quiet. Mission still on. Target still marked. Fuel check passed. Nothing in her voice. No tremor. No threat. She spoke once more. Quiet. Measured. End of transmission. Then the line went dead. The broadcast hit national channels within 4 minutes. Satellite relay fed it into federal monitoring. Within 8, it was on congressional radar. Webb's encrypted uplink went dark. 2 F-15Cs diverted from patrol to track the signal. They found only residual thermal bleed and a signal loop that led nowhere. Command sent an abort. Webb ignored it. A second order arrived. Recall authorization, signed by Deputy DOD. Webb's helicopter banked east. Mid-flight, he received a direct line from the oversight chair. His eyes didn't move. He didn't argue. He gave a nod to the pilot. Kate's Black Hawk had already crossed into canyon folds. No radar. No visual. Her transponder was off, altitude just under FAA threshold. She cut throttle, descended low. No sound over terrain noise. The aircraft blended with shadow and ridgeline. At 0602, she powered down behind a ridge outcrop. Switched to ground extraction. Left no heat trace. Rotor blades coasted to stillness. The helicopter stayed parked, covered in camo netting, set on natural slope. She walked out, alone, quiet. No radio traffic. Across the country, Jackson entered a CIA backline relay station in Langley. No name on file, just his face. He inserted the drive, logged it, confirmed chain of custody. Within 6 minutes, data packages arrived at the Senate Intelligence Committee, the House Oversight Panel, Joint Chiefs Classified Node, and 3 civilian press pools. Each packet included logs, mission overlays, kill confirmation lists, command fragments, and fund routes. No commentary, no redactions. At 0709, Webb was met at Fort Meade by 2 armed officers. They said nothing. Escorted him to a black SUV. No cuffs. He didn't resist. By 10:30, he sat in room 513B, Pentagon Judicial Annex. The room was cold. No flag, no audience. Just 6 members behind a steel table and a row of monitors to their left. His name was called, rank stated, clearance revoked on record. The lead investigator read from a list. Theft of secure intel. Unauthorized ops. Asset elimination without executive oversight. Fraudulent transfer of agency funds. Breach of oath. Violations confirmed. Webb said nothing. They removed his ID badge, his insignia pin. The room remained silent. He signed the debrief waiver. His hand didn't shake. The guard stepped forward. Webb stood. The door shut behind him. No one looked back. At a secure feed, Jackson watched, one hand on the desk, the other on a water bottle. No smile, no sound. He logged off. The screen went black. Hours later, Arlington National Cemetery held a private, unscheduled ceremony. 7 headstones, aligned with military precision, no public names. Just ranks, unit, and years. An honor guard fired once. Folded flags passed to no families. No next of kin had been listed. A small group of onlookers stood near the edge. DOD staff, no civilians, no media. Kate stood in the back. Civilian clothes, sunglasses, hair pulled tight. Nothing marked her. She didn't step forward. She didn't kneel. She waited until the guard departed, then turned, walked out past the last row, disappeared between hedgerows. No one followed. No words. The mission was over. Justice didn't need a name. The desert wind pressed dust against the shop's steel siding. Nothing changed. The gate creaked once in the morning. Inside, the tools hung in line, torque wrenches clean, rags folded. Floor swept before sunrise. Rachel stood by the bench, shirt sleeves rolled, oil on her hands. Socket set open, fan running overhead. No radio played. At Aero 8:21, a truck pulled into the lot. Gray Chevy. Army base sticker on the windshield. She didn't look up until the door opened. Boots stepped out. Light tread. New. The woman was in uniform. Flight badge on her chest. Lieutenant Bar clean. Not polished. She walked up slow. "You're Kate Moreno." Rachel didn't answer. Just looked. The woman adjusted her sleeve. "I'm Haley Cortez, UH-60 pilot, 160th SOAR track. We got briefed on an off-book transfer. Name came up. Yours." Rachel wiped her hands. "Set the wrench down." Haley hesitated. "They said there was a program. Not officially sanctioned. Ghost-related. They called it Valkyrie." Rachel looked at her. Said nothing. Haley shifted. "I don't know what's real. Most of the team thinks it's myth. But the intel was too detailed to fake, and they said someone made it out." Rachel reached under the counter, opened a drawer, pulled out a white envelope. No writing, no logo, just a number inside. Satellite route. No return channel. She held it out. No explanation. Haley took it. Didn't open it. She looked back at the hangar. "That yours?" Rachel didn't answer. Haley squinted at the sealed hangar doors. "You still fly?" Rachel looked at her tools. "Only when I need to." Haley nodded. "If I call that number, who answers?" Rachel turned away, wiped the counter. Haley stood for a second longer. Then she saluted. Not too sharp. Just enough. She walked back to the truck, drove out. Dust trailed behind. Rachel stayed still. The sound faded. She placed the envelope drawer back, shut it, walked to the rear, opened the breaker panel, flipped the auxiliary switch. Inside the hangar, the lights came on low. The Black Hawk sat quiet. No fuel line attached, no rotors turning. Its surface reflected just enough to be seen. Rachel stood at the edge, didn't step closer. She looked once at the frame, then killed the light, walked back to the bench, picked up the wrench, and worked.